Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video.
What up, Chad? We gonna deadlift heavy as hell, boy! We going to the other body shop and we get lit!
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are!
We're going to Unreal.
No, Teasel!
Dog! Alright, so as you guys just saw, 705 pounds, 6 reds, 320 kilograms. That was my week 4 single on deads, and it's on a stiff bar, no straps. So first off, before I even go into critiquing it, I just gotta say that is massive, coming from someone who's been pulling on deadlift bars for the last few years of his life, honestly. So that's a huge accomplishment. I gotta take a step back to be thankful for that. And I wanted to say that obviously without my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, none of that would be possible. As of the day I'm filming this, it's Wednesday, March 19th. So I'm halfway through week 4. I have a humongous all-time squat double coming up, and I'm not gonna say what I'm doing, but I definitely have a huge number in mind. But boys, while we are on the topic and before I get into the squat footage, I want to talk about something that I haven't really seen get talked about much within the powerlifting community. I think I've seen one other influencer speaking about it, but I kind of want to bring some awareness to it. And that is, facing anxiety and adrenaline within the sport of powerlifting. Especially once you get up to those week 3s, week 4s on program and third attempts in competition. That's when it really starts to get nerve-wracking. And I think especially with me, squat specifically is a very terrifying lift for me, because with deadlift, worst case scenario, you drop it, it goes on the floor. I mean, maybe if your toes are too wide, it hits that, it hurts. But with squat, you literally have 600 pounds on your back. God forbid you slip a disc, or God forbid you blow out a quad mid-lift. Yeah, there's spotters around, but they still have to have a reaction time to get it in time. And, God forbid something does go wrong. That's what scares me so much about squat. I mean, you see these freak accidents. Like, not that long ago, some girl's neck. I'm not going to go into detail, but I think you can kind of figure out what happened. It rolled onto her neck. And, of course, I saw that right before my week 4 squat, like the day or 2 days before. So I went into that being terrified. But everyone kind of demonizes this anxiety. Everyone says anxiety is bad. Now, obviously, anxiety isn't fun to experience in day-to-day life and outside of the gym in a gym context. But about exactly 1 block ago, leading into my week 4 squat, I was really terrified for my week 4 squat because I had 525 as a triple. And I remember even like 2 hours before I had even gone into the gym, I was literally just sitting there like sipping an energy drink, watching some YouTube videos, getting hyped. And my heart rate had to be like 150, 160 beats per minute, like getting up there, just sitting here, being sedentary, doing nothing. And obviously that's a very uncomfortable experience because I'm not even exerting myself. I shouldn't have that high of a heart rate. And so it just means I was starting to get really anxious about that. And it's really an uncomfortable feeling, honestly. It's not fun to experience, regardless of whether or not you're an active person. But I think for me, over the years and the more experience I've gained, I've really learned that, you know, that anxiety can actually benefit you if you know how to use it properly. So, earlier in the fall of 2024, I started trying to cut back on caffeine. I went like a month without drinking any caffeine, and I started listening to my music super quietly, kind of dumbing down on a lot of the stimulants or stimuluses I would use in order to help myself or like hype myself up in the gym. And I noticed that when I'd get to my top set for the day, even if it's like a week one, weights that would normally like feel better, even if they look the same on camera, weights that would normally feel better, provided those stimuluses didn't feel as great without them. And it made me realize how much I was kind of relying on them. And that's what I think the beauty of these supplements are, or being able to, you know, listen to loud music, use smelling salts, all that stuff. You see people overusing them in these week ones, week twos when you're going light, where it's supposed to be RP6, RP7, RP sub 6 even in some cases. It's nothing crazy. And you see people overusing these stimulants. So to the point where week 3, week 4 comes around, it's almost as if you're desensitized to it. So going a month without caffeine, it totally reset my tolerance, and it made me sensitive to just a single cup of 75 milligram coffee, to the point where I was jittery from that. And unfortunately now I'm slamming an energy drink and pre-workout every day, and I'm fine again. But, you know, that's what those tools are meant for. They're meant for those week 3s, week 4s, when it starts to get serious. They're meant to aid you. They're not meant to be a crutch for every single day workouts. Especially on like secondary bench days. You do not need a high stim pre for a secondary bench day. Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked, but anxiety. I think my earliest case of anxiety in terms of sports that I remember at least would be my freshman year of high school when I would do competitive ski racing. I remember because it's a single person sport, all eyes are on you. I'd be up at the top of the starting gate and they're saying, all right, you're on deck, get ready. I'm getting ready. They count down, they say go whenever. And my nerves would be at an all-time high. And it sounds weird, but I would always tell people, during the 30, 45 seconds I'm going down that course, I don't even know I'm alive, to be honest. The nerves take over, I zone out, and I'm not even really there mentally. I'm just so focused on what I have to do or the task I have to get done that I'm not even aware of my surroundings. In a way, that's scary, but I guess my motor programming's so developed that I've become good enough to do that without having to be so hyper aware of my surroundings. Unless something throws me out of track, like I'm late around a turn or something. But that's besides the point. I'm just speaking of personal experience early on. This is about powerlifting and nerves. So because of my experience with that, I kind of learned, hey, well, I've experienced this before. It's okay to feel anxiety. Now, what can I do to actually allow it to benefit me? And so that's why I think that side tangent was important about, you know, not having as much adrenaline going into top sets, because now when I do have adrenaline, it'll make weights feel way easier than if I went into it without adrenaline, regardless of how strong I was going to be that day. Even if I was able to move 500 pounds at that same RPE, it would still feel easier with the anxiety and adrenaline than without. And that's what I try to do even with my warm-ups. It might take me a long time to work up to my top set because I have this natural timing I have to like kind of do within my body and my mental mindset. And so that's why music's so important to me. Once I get up to the heavier sets, I start playing my music loudly, visualizing it in my head. I start visualizing how I'm going to carry out the movement or the compound lift, especially with squats. Squats are big for that. But because of my experience with that, I've learned that being able to use my anxiety as a tool rather than something that can overwhelm me, it's actually benefited me. I think in a way, it sounds weird, but if you're not a little scared of the weight, then are you going heavy enough? Within reason, of course, but I think it should scare you a little bit because it's ambitious. It means you're putting your foot out there. You're taking the next step to better yourself and to actually push your boundaries. And I guess I'm going to add another point. In my motor skill development class I'm currently taking, we talk about how too much stimulus can actually overwhelm someone, and that's where choking comes in, where it causes you to choke because you're so overwhelmed. And sometimes with these newer athletes to you know, professional sports levels, they will choke these high level like playoff games, for example, because they don't have enough experience with that to where they can, you know, not focus on their anxiety because it overwhelms them. And obviously powerlifting isn't really a sport where it's, you know, that crazy with that many eyes on you, like, you know, the NFL. Even you see newer lifters, they do let that anxiety overwhelm them, and unfortunately it causes their performance to suffer as a result. But at least for me in my personal life, because I am a religious person, I am a Christian, the biggest thing for me is praying to God before every single lift. I pray to God, I say, Lord, I pray that you'll please keep me safe during this lift. Please don't allow me to get injured. Please don't allow me to die. And please give me your strength as opposed to mine, because without you, I am nothing. And I need you in order to complete this. That's why I always praise God in all my lifts, because truly without him, I would not be able to do any of the accomplishments I've done. And growing closer to him as a result has brought me way further than I could have gone without him. So I guess if there's a few things I could say to wrap all of this up, it's that anxiety doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because in my case and many other cases, it's actually been able to benefit people's performance. You just have to find ways to channel that and be able to kind of control it to where it doesn't overwhelm you. Even getting into a more personal note, outside of the gym, I still to an extent struggle with, you know, general everyday anxiety. I think that's totally normal. But for a while, I was having full-blown panic attacks for like a 2-month phase over the last summer before I was getting my hormones figured out with my thyroid gland. But I would have full-blown panic attacks like once a week out of nowhere, and it is one of the most uncomfortable experiences ever, because all reason goes out the window and it feels like you're going to die, even though you know you're not. But you don't believe that in the moment. You feel like you're going to die because that's all you can focus on, and you spiral with that thought. And sometimes it'll just come on out of nowhere. It can be triggered by these slightest things. Especially with men, it's almost kind of taboo to talk about mental health, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I've been to therapy, and I currently am going to therapy. I mean, everything on pen and paper in my life physically is going good. But if I put this much like effort into my physical body and my physical health, I might as well take care of my mental health as well, just to help me control my conscious and subconscious thoughts and be able to realize that thoughts are just thoughts. They don't have to ruin my entire day. Now I'm really getting sidetracked, but I guess I just want this to serve as like a source of inspiration if you are struggling with your mental health or even anxiety. It's important to get the help you need, because the longer you let it bottle up and pent up, the worse it's going to be in the long run. So you might as well fix it while you can. So I'm sorry I ranted for a long time, but with all that being said and done, let me show you guys my 535 pounds for 2 squat.
One way or another, I'll still be able to make my way back home. Meanwhile, you can lie there and think about what you've done as you share the same fate as the planet you destroyed.